Hi guys, we're going to do my January wrap up for the first month of the year. I am a little late to posting this because my SD card corrupted, and so we're actually reshooting this together. I also had filmed my 2025 awards and all the books that I read in 2025 and my favorites in each category, and that has also been lost. So let me know in the comments if you would like me to reshoot, as that was an over hour long video of content and recapping of the year. I probably will still do it at some point, but not today because I'm a bit discouraged that it's gone. If you like bookish videos and monthly wrap-ups, please consider liking as well as subscribing and following along for future videos. I would really love for you to stick around. Even though it doesn't look like it, I actually read 9 books in January and started the year with such a good bang and strong start. So I'm very excited to go through those books with you. I've never done a long form monthly video before. As far as a wrap-up, I always just do them on short content, but I wanted to start doing these monthly as I would like a space to be able to say more than what I can fit in a 3-minute video. I am such a yapper. I really do talk, and so even these videos are edited down. You just don't know it. I also read such variety and such different kinds of books. I really like to give a range and background, so maybe it would be a good book for you or not without giving spoilers about the book. And again, it can be hard to say all of that in a short amount of time. We're going to start doing these monthly, recapping each month. But you might notice we are in a new space, and I have some new shelves behind me. For 10 years I have not updated my shelves or my bookish space, as there just hasn't really been the extra income to do that. But my siblings all chipped in and surprised me for my birthday and got me a really nice IKEA bookshelf with the doors. So spoiled. Look at this. It's absolutely stunning. I love it. I can't stop looking at it every time I walk by it in my living room. This is now the main focal piece in my living room. The tall one behind me is what used to be in my living room, and it was double stacked and stuffed. These literally just got put in here yesterday so I could film today. So we are doing great as far as time, and then with time you'll probably just see as they evolve with us in this space. Now that we are done with all the updates, let's start talking about books. So I read 9 books in January, which was 629 pages, 107.4 hours of audiobooks. My average rating was 3.75 stars. Most of the books that I read, as we've already gone over, were not, I don't physically own. I only own 3 of them. The rest of them I did on my Kindle or through the library. Where Darkness Falls. This is from an indie author, so I really wanted to prioritize this. It is a gothic read, and I love my gothic books, so I was really looking forward to this. This is over 500 pages. I want to say it's over 600 pages. I will double check when I'm editing this, but it was a thicker book. It was also my first book on my 26 TBR wheel, so it was a hefty book to get as my first spin to try to finish in a week. So while I was reading it, I was also like, I need to get through this so I can go spin again for week 2. I don't have too many thick books on my wheel for this reason, but I was hoping that I would get sucked in, and because again, gothic books are my jam and I would enjoy it. This had the slowest of the slowest plots, and it wasn't until the last 10%, literally my Kindle, 10%, I was 90% through this book, when things actually pick up and we start actually having movement and some answers as readers. Our main character has amnesia or memory loss, and she doesn't know much about herself at all and her background, and she's been adopted into this family, and she ends up on a quest, and the king ends up wanting what she has, and she's special, but she doesn't even know why she's special. You literally know nothing. You know very, very little. There is some grace given because it is an indie author, and so, you know, edits and the amount of cuts that can happen can be limited. The 10% of the book, though, was so good that I am going to read book 2. I really hope that book 2 continues at the pacing that the ending had, and we'll see. I might DNF book 2, but I at least want to try it. So I think if you're new to gothic reads that you would enjoy this, as I wanted it to be even more haunting and dark and have even more of the chanting atmosphere that gothic books can have. But if you haven't read many, I think that you would still enjoy this and think that it was like perfect amount of dark for you to dip your toes. Our character is aged up, however she was quite insecure and needed quite a bit of encouragement, and while I am okay with having a character that needs words of affirmation, it is a little bit hard for me that she's been through all of this major life events and had all of this loss, and she's been through so many challenges, and she's older and yet she is immature in a way, and I just really would have appreciated if she was a little more aged up mentally to match her physical age. A lot of what I read in January was because they are books being made into adaptations, and so I wanted to take a month and knock out some of the movies or shows that are coming to us as readers soon and prioritize them and just like mark them off. It made my little list of a heart so happy. And so you will see a theme here as we keep going. One being people we meet on vacation. So my hold for this on Libby was not available, and so I actually did the movie and then the book, and the movie was so cringe for me, you guys. Like, it was okay. I just was like, everyone said the book was better, which tends to be the theme, right? Books have more detail, more context, more backstory. And so I was like, I will still try the book, even though to me the story and the premise was mediocre at best. And to me, the book was worse because you had more context and the full story, and it still just didn't make sense. I think I might just not be an Emily Henry girl. I think her stories are just not practical enough for me. I am just such a practical, non-emotions. I don't make decisions through emotions, and I'm just a very practical person. Her stories just almost seem too good to be true at times. The premise of this book is they are friends and they go on a trip together every summer, but they're only friends. However, they secretly do like each other, just they don't want to cross the line. 8 or 9 years they do these summer trips only as friends while having other partners, but those relationships always fall apart because they like each other. So this was my lowest rating of the month. This was not it. I just think, to me, a lot of Emily Henry's characters and stories could be solved if her characters went to therapy. I felt the same way about Happy Place. I did enjoy Funny Story, but overall I just think her characters are not for me. I can't connect. I just feel like there's so much miscommunication, but we are adults, and this book could not even be a story. It could be half the length, not even. They would just talk to each other, and it's just such a pet peeve of mine. I just did not enjoy this. If you enjoyed this and the movie, I love that for you, and I'm really happy. I am just sad that it wasn't for me. We're now going to talk about a physical book, The Will of the Many. I have wanted to read this for over a year, but I purposely held off until book 2 was out because I heard the way that book 1 ended, you wanted to have book 2 ready, and I've seen how everyone's been waiting for book 2, and I didn't want it to be me. And I was also reading Red Rising, so I had other sci-fi to entertain me. So a little bit about the book. You are following our main character who has a hidden identity, and he is adopted by one of the leaders in this world, and he ends up going to an academy. But so in the academy, he is this person's son, but he has a hidden agenda to be there. So it's almost like a double hidden identity at this point. There is a lot of political intrigue. This is such a interesting world and system, and for the majority of the book, you're not sure what the world is or where you are or what is even happening, and you're kind of just floundering as the pages go on. And I kept waiting to feel like settled and grounded with what was going to be the story, and I would feel like I would get there, and then he would purposely give us new information, and I'd be like, wait a minute. And then the last few pages, oh my god, you guys, I had to read the ending twice because the plot twist just kept coming. You're like, oh, so that's the plot twist. No, there was another one. And then you're like, oh, so that's how this is going to end. And then no, it was something else. And so I don't really want to say too much so that if you haven't read this, I don't spoil it for you. But I do think that if you like books in academia, and if you like a Roman Empire setting, and if you are okay with a good revenge arc and a good slow build, this was such a good first book to set up the system and the hierarchy of the people. And so if you're okay with the pacing being a little slower, and like I said, not knowing what is going on because you're like not supposed to, that I think you would really enjoy this. I also think that if you liked Red Rising, you would really enjoy this, as it is similar themes, not the same world, but similar themes. As in book 1 of Red Rising, they also go to an academy, and again, it's not the same exactly, but I just think the way that they're both trying to immerse themselves in the world that they ultimately want to take down is similar in that vein. I did really enjoy this, and I am dying to pick up book 2 after what happened at the end of this. Project Hail Mary, I also read because the movie is coming out soon, and I have wanted to read this for a long time. This is a sci-fi. It is set in space. You are following a scientist who is in space to basically do a Project Hail Mary, that if what he's trying to achieve doesn't work, all of civilization on Earth is going to die. This is also one that I don't want to say too much because you really should go into it blind. I did the audio because so many people recommend the audio, audio, and the audio was amazing. It really did enhance the story, and specifically with the sciencey bits, as you are with a scientist, and so he's doing a lot of math and figuring out space in real time. I think that if I had read that with the words, it would have pulled me out of the story a little bit, but because it was on audio, it really just, it wasn't as hard to comprehend. The words were being spoken for me and it didn't take me out of the story as I think it might have if I was physically reading it. There is such great humor in this, with it being such a devastating, high-stake plot, that it helps with the heaviness of the world. This is also a book that has different timelines. As you're going into it, you have plot from before he's in space versus real time with where he is in space now, and so I really enjoyed that as well, as I like a full picture. It is a standalone, which it also makes it very digestible, but I would highly recommend that if you've had any interest in this, you should read it before you watch the movie, as the movie, even the trailer, has such spoilers that you wouldn't know going into the book. So if you haven't watched the trailer and we haven't seen the movie yet, I would wait until you've read the book so that you don't have a massive spoiler happen. But this was a lot of fun. I would say the fact that he was in space, I would have liked there to have been more space parts of it and been even more sci-fi-ish, as he's in, as a lot of the time, like I said, it is a lot of space problem solving and him being a scientist in the spaceship and not as much of the actual big picture space. But besides that, I don't really have any complaints. Burnout. This is such a good little read. It has such good nuggets of information that I started on audio, and the sisters that wrote this are taking turns reading the chapters, but I then got the physical copy so I could make notes and tab all of my notes instead of trying to save them all on a note in my phone. I have been feeling really at capacity, is what I keep saying. It's the phrase that I keep using, just with the state of the world, as well as trying to manage my time, because I do work full time while trying to make content, while also keeping time to read so I have content to talk about, as well as balancing other hobbies and relationships and eating healthy and just all the things, right, that we want to fit in, working out, getting 8 hours of sleep, taking care of my dogs. I have felt burnt out, and so I really wanted to see if this book was helpful. I felt like it was going to be too cheesy. Maybe it wouldn't be that beneficial, but I was like, let's just try it. It's a quick read. I didn't have any other audiobooks to go through, and so I was like, let's try it. It was life-changing. It really is. It has science-backed information, but in a way that it is like storytelling, and they put together different characters with life events so that we can relate to it in our own life, which is partly why it was so impactful, because you can relate to the women in these books. It also really talks about living in a system made for men and how women are statistically burnt out more than men because we're living in a world not really made for us or designed for us. And it talks about patriarchy. It had so many other important topics that I think really everyone should read, whether regardless of your gender and how you identify. I think every person would really benefit, and again, it's not a very thick read. I'm definitely going to be referencing this. The main takeaway from this is the stress cycle and completing the stress cycle. Your body is flooded with adrenaline or stress, even if you're just typing at your keyboard, and making sure you give yourself an outlet to then relieve that, as just because you say you're okay or past that angry email now, it's not like left your body and you need to actually go walk it off or take a run or go breathe fresh air. Like, you need to move yourself so that your body can finish processing that high stress moment. For me, it was a really good reminder, especially since I have an office job. I haven't read a book like this in a really long time, and it also reminded me that I like books like this. I don't like books that are like too self-help. I don't like those as much, but books where it's more like getting to know humans, and again, it's science-based and it just has good nuggets that anyone could enjoy, I really do like. And this reminded me that I should read more books like this outside of my fantasy world. So if you have other books like this that you would like to recommend to me, if you have books like this that you have read that you would like to recommend me, I would really appreciate that. And I could also do a video of other books like this that I have read and would recommend that I think are worth your time. If you guys would like that, just let me know. Another TV movie adaptation is Tell Me Lies. I am obsessed with Tell Me Lies. Obsessed. I absolutely love that show, and so when season 1 came out, I then rewatched it before season 2, and then when season 2 came out, I rewatched part of it before season 3, and then while we were waiting for season 3, while I was doing part of the rewatch of season 2, I was like, oh, let me just go read the book. So I did. I read the book, then watched season 3 that just came out here this year. What I want to say though is that the book really just follows the two main characters, and the side characters that we get in the show, they have done such a good job giving them a full backstory story and screen time that you do not get in the book. And I think it really enhances it. And in a way, I really enjoy the show more than the book. But I appreciate that the book is where the show came from. Needed the book to build the show, but I really think the show is better. I don't know, let me know if you guys have read and watched the show, if you think that or not, but I really liked how much more of a world we get with the show. This is about college kids or adults and really toxic behavior and unlikable characters, and how really horrible men or a man can affect your life in every aspect, including your physical health, and then how you end up feeling crazy. I work in the legal field. To have this such up close personal story was such a good depiction of what I see every day at my work. The emotional toll that relationships like this can have on you. I would say that if you need to like your characters, that this book isn't for you. You're not going to like them. You're not supposed to. While I understand all of them, even Steven, our main male character, they all need therapy. One of them does get therapy and she gets better while she's in therapy, but then when you're not in therapy, you tend to kind of revert. I really appreciate books that show human behavior and show complex human behavior, as humans are such flawed, fragile creatures. I really personally did enjoy this. I do think it is a complex, sensitive topics that it's not a book for everyone. The Housemaid. I also haven't read any Frida McFadden, so I was like, let's try it. She's a popular author, so this is a way that I can finally give her a try. Otherwise, who knows when I would prioritize her. Was such a disappointment. This was so predictable, and so many people talk about the ending, and so many reviews, if you scroll and read reviews outside of people watching the movie, how they were so floored. And I'm not judging anyone who didn't see the plot twist coming, but I guess just because I've read so many books, it takes more to surprise you when you've seen so many plot twists already. But this was one where very early on, and I was like, this is 100% how it's going to go, and it did. And I kept waiting for like another plot twist to happen would prove me wrong, because I was like, surely there's more, and there wasn't. And then the ending was kind of silly. Also, they make more books, and if this is the first one, I can only imagine it doesn't get better. I imagine they just get sillier. I don't even know if I'll watch the movie. Maybe if it's free somewhere someday. But this is following a woman who goes to be a housemaid at a rich person's house, a rich family's house, and to help the mom. And the mom is a little cray-cray, and she seems like not mentally there or very stable, and so it becomes a bit of an unsafe environment. And her room that she's given is in the attic, and it's a very small room, and it's very not even nice guest room that you would expect to be in, being the type of couple that she's working for. Weird things start happening. There's a bit of a twisted romance element to it. It was thriller-esque. I just wanted more. I just thought it was okay. The only reason I even finished it is because thrillers, you have to get to the end for the payoff. Otherwise, I probably would have DNF'd it. I feel like for the amount of books I read in January that these aren't the most positive reviews, and so hopefully that's okay and it's not too depressing to listen to. I just want to be honest, and if you like the same type of books I like, what to expect, as I think it can be hard sometimes to listen to reviews, even from mutuals. You would have liked to have known certain things before you picked up the book, even if not spoiler about the plot, but just like, for example, Where Darkness Falls. It is a really slow build, and you're going to have to get through 90% of it for payoff, so just know that going into it. It's not a bad book. I would appreciate knowing that, so then I can like mentally prepare that it's going to take a while for it to pick up. With that being said, we're going to move on to another book, Sunrise on the Reaping. Can you guess if I liked this one or not? With everything in me, want to be a Hunger Games girl. I love a dystopian book. I love the premise of these books. I love the important themes and topics. I just think it is such a also unique concept that came up with, that so many other authors have now created their own worlds based off of hers. I am just not. I think more than anything, it is because I know that the characters in the books most of them are not going to last, because that's like the premise of it with the games, and I just can't get attached. This one specifically, you don't get to see a lot of the trials or the game itself, because you're following Hamish, our main character, and so a lot of the story, you're just following him in the arena, and you're not even seeing a lot of play with the other characters, which is also something different than some of the other books. The original trilogy, I remember we get to see quite a bit of all of the characters, so that also made it a little bit slow, because you're just following Hamish's day to day, and it's very much a character driven arc dark. I also struggled with this a little bit because we're trying to take down the world, and the way that we decided to do it just again didn't really make a lot of sense. The consequences that come because of those choices are going to happen, and it's just really heartbreaking. And so it's really good writing. I understand that this is a beloved world. I just think this might be the last Hunger Game book that I try, as I have read all of them that are out, and I feel like we'll probably get more. And I think this is one where if I want to watch the movie, I will, just because I love the world. I just think the depressingness hits also a little close to home with current events right now. Let's move on to a little more lighthearted book, which is Heated Rivalry. This is freaking everywhere. It is so popular. It is sold out. The HBO show just went crazy. I felt like I was having such FOMO, and so I really wanted to try to fit this in, and I was going to do it as an audiobook, which makes it a little easier for me to add to my lineup as opposed to a physical book. Did read this in January for a lighter book between all of my fantasy. Being of the queer community and being a person who is gay, I feel like the book wasn't really written for us. While I appreciate representation, and representation is important, and I love the concept of queer athletes in sports and having to be closeted and following that story, this was also a lot of smut. I love smut, not a problem with that. I just think the gaze of which this was put together wasn't really something I would recommend if you were specifically looking for a queer love story. I think the show does a better job of actually doing a queer gaze and queer representation and the depiction of what it's like to actually be us and in our lives more than the book even did. There were really great things in it, and again, for what it is, I enjoyed it. It just wasn't as much of an enjoyment. There are just other queer romance books that I've enjoyed a lot more that I think cater towards my community a lot better. I do think that it's not a bad book. I just think it depends on what you're looking for. I did also want to mention that in January I started Dungeon Crawler Carl with my fiance, and we are buddy reading it together, so we have not finished it. We're only reading it once or twice a week at the same time so we can talk about it. So finish a chapter, talk about it, and then read more. And so it's a bit of a slower pace than what I would do on my own, but it's been a lot of fun. And so we'll continue this in February, but this is a styled or sci-fi, don't ask me what RPG means though, but it's like a gamer styled apocalyptic styled into the world game where our humans are inside the earth and they are trying to go down different levels, and the further they go, better rewards they get, and earth has been taken over by aliens. Anyways, it's been a fun time. There's a lot of dark humor or darker parts obviously with the concept of it, but then there's a lot of humor and just outrageous things that happen. There is a talking cat, so it's been fun. We really enjoy it as something different to try for the both of us. These are the books I got through in January and what I have started the year off with. I hope that y'all have a great reading month in February, and I really appreciate you being here.